Gazzetta Football Italia from Paul's house.
Hi, well I had a great week this week. Another victorious win against my old mate Des, Sampdoria, winning 2-1. Training's been the same this week, still hard, still battling on, but I'll tell you more about that later. First this.
Coming up, action from champions Milan as they bid to make it 53 games unbeaten when they faced high-scoring Foggia. James Richardson with all the news from behind the week's headlines. Some stunning goals as we bring you all 24 scored in Serie A. The chance to win a cash prize if you can match Paul Gascoigne's choice of goal of the week. A word from our Italian culinary expert. Plus an exclusive look at Milan, the world's greatest football team, as we get a half-term report from some of the club's top players and the coach Fabio Capello.
Well, one of the fantastic matches of the week was Milan against Foggia. Fantastic game. Foggia down at the bottom, Milan are flying high at the top again. Everyone would have thought Milan would walk away with it, but they didn't. And here are some of the highlights.
Of all Milan's matches unbeaten in Serie A, the 8-2 win in Foggia on the final day of last season is bound to be a highlight. Foggia have admitted to a more cautious approach for today's game. Surprisingly, Paolo Mandelli is drafted into the team to partner the Russian international Igor Kolivanov in attack. Former Milan player Bresciani, number 7, will operate just behind them. Still no Van Basten for Milan, he's still injured, as is Lentini, so Rijkaard, Hulic and Papin are Milan's 3 overseas players. That means no place in the squad for Savicevic or Boban. Number 7, Eranio, begins his first game of the new year in place of Lentini, while Baresi's once again suspended. Number 5, Nava, and number 6, Costa Curta, a Milan's central defensive partnership. Costa Curta thumps the ball forward, looking for Papin. Petrescu manages to make a challenge. Here's Papin. Did well to win the initial duel with Dan Petrescu. And then his shot was hopelessly mishit. Papin missed last week's game against Genoa because he was suffering from the effects of flu. Eranio, Caini should get there first. Given away to Tassotti. Biagio. Tassotti unable to keep the ball in play, so another throw in here to Foggia. It's a rather scrappy start to the game. And other than the one shot by Papin, little for either side to enthuse about. But here's Foggia. Mandelli calling for the ball, he has it now! And there was some very slack marking in that Milan defence as Mandelli, who's been drafted into the side for today's game, volleyed that one over the top. Kolivanov supplied the cross, and Mandelli might have done better here. Donadoni. Maldini. Papin. Good save by Mancini, one of the smallest goalkeepers in Serie A, but he had little trouble diverting that shot away from Papin for a corner. Bresciani. This is a tremendous run by Bresciani. Neat 1-2 with Kolivanov. Oh, driven straight at Rossi. And Bresciani, the former Milan player, could have embarrassed his former club there with a more accurate shot when he was in an excellent position to score. Tremendous football by Foggia. Both Mandelli and Bresciani might have given the home side the lead. Mandeli. Well, it flew across the face of Rossi's goal. From this angle, it looked a good deal closer than it actually was. Then Caini again prepared to come forward from the left back berth. There's the coach of Foggia, who have a free kick for the foul on Bresciani. Xhaka, number 10, standing over the ball, the Sicilian, who was playing semi-professional football last season. Quite a step up for him. Kolivanov, number 11, standing over the ball. Here is Kolivanov. Took a deflection, I think, off Donadoni in the end. Flew wide of the upright. It's going to be a corner to Foggia. Once again, it'll be Nicola Xhaka to curl a ball into the Milan penalty area. Got away by Hulic, but only at the expense of another corner. Still Foggia 0, Milan 0. And look at the corner count. 6 for Foggia, just 1 for Milan. Bresciani has scored! The old boy puts one over on his old club. 9 minutes to half-time, and Foggia are threatening to upset Milan's long unbeaten spell. There was a big slice of good fortune about the goal. It rattled the frame of the goal, and Bresciani was in the right place at the right time. But arguably Milan should have cleared the near post corner. Perhaps Albertini was to blame for not getting the ball away. Nava. Kolivanov. Now this could be interesting. Still Kolivanov. Oh! Costacurta did just about enough to put off Kolivanov in his shooting stride. The ball bounced rather unfortunately for Kolivanov, and that allowed Costacurta to make some sort of challenge. Rijkaard. Disappointing, inaccurate pass. Seno. Bresciani. Mandeli. That's a penalty. Tassotti is furious about the decision, but it certainly was a penalty, with Nava holding back Mandeli. Now, Foggia have scored 6 out of 6 penalties this season, but the man who's converted 5 of those, Biagioni, is on the substitutes bench. De Biagio has only scored 1, and Rossi in the Milan goal has already saved a penalty this season from Gianluca Vialli. Foggia with a chance to make it 2-0. And De Biagio has his spot kick save. Their first penalty miss of the season. And Rossi, who denied Vialli early this season, might have just given Milan a lifeline in this game. Well, I'm sure Milan have been given a huge psychological boost by that penalty save. Mandeli got away from Nava, who's having a real unhappy afternoon. Nava and Mandeli are dragging him this way and that. He's already given away a penalty, and he was unable to prevent Mandeli having that shot on goal. Donadoni. Hulic has Papao waiting in the middle. finds Papin, 1-1. And Milan are back with a vengeance. Just a few minutes after Rossi saves a penalty, Jean-Pierre Papin heads Milan level, and all the doubts about Milan's long unbeaten run coming to an end are dispelled. Hullet, the architect of the goal, but for a small player, Papin got up magnificently. He hung in the air as if suspended by a piece of string. Donadoni then to take this free kick. Papin looking for it. Rijkaard! You won't find a sweeter shots in Serie A this weekend. Two goals now in 3 minutes puts Milan back in the driving seat, and I wonder if that goal by Rijkaard clips the safety belt too. What a brilliant striker of a ball Frank Rijkaard is, regarded by many to be the only indispensable overseas player in Milan's squad, and that goal underlines that fact. Say no. There was a free header in there. Kolivanov with that half chance of restoring Foggia back on level terms. Milan have nearly double the points of Foggia, 16 in favour of 31, but there's been very little to separate these two teams in this game. Milan certainly have dominated the second half. And here's another controversial incident as the referee gives Foggia the corner. Biagioni to take the corner. Milan leading by 2-1. Oh, Rossi's dropped it. Say no. It's there. Minutes from full time, Foggia are level, and the man who saved a penalty turns from hero to villain and gifts Foggia a lifeline.
All the rest of the Serie A goals to come. But first, James Richardson with news from behind the headlines.
And I dedicate News of the Week today to you, the viewer, maiden freshly liberated from Victorian Puritanism that you are. And I draw my inspiration for this dedication not from a heavy bout of pre-lunchtime drinking, but from the pages of the Gazzetta dello Sport, where I discovered this article by Giancarlo Galavotti, all about how the English have fallen in love with Serie A. The English viewing public, he says, are like a maiden freshly liberated from Victorian Puritanism, which seems like a funny way to describe Match of the Day to me. But anyway, like a maiden, he continues, etc., etc., blossoming under the sunshine of a first Florentian visit. The English public has discovered Serie A and now wants nothing else. The success story began at the start of this season with Sampdoria Lazio, Signor Galavotti explains, which drew an audience of 20 million. Unfortunately, that's the sort of factually challenged claim that even our producer would hesitate to make without the strongest of sherries inside him. Serie A is more popular than pizza or pasta or even Pavarotti, Signor Galavotti explains, before finishing his lengthy half-page article with an interview with one Giancarlo Rinaldi, the editor of Rigori, the top-quality journal of Italian football. If not the only Italian football fanzine on the market, certainly one of the best. Now, the Italian papers, as you can tell from the length of all that, having some difficulty still filling up their pages, what with all the press silences around. So they must have been glad to see some news from Torino this week on Wednesday, when the mystery of the club's sale was finally settled. After more red herrings than a jar full of Russian roll mops, the ownership has passed to not the toy manufacturer, nor the man from Cinzano or Beretta, or yes, for that matter, Del Monte, but instead Roberto Gioviani. Roberto Gioviani, once Italy's youngest ever notary and a black belt in karate. At just 35 years old, he's the youngest president in Serie A, less than half the age, in fact, of Fiorentina's Mario Cecchi Gori. Well, meanwhile, the departing Torino president, Gianmauro Borsano, went up to the training ground on Wednesday for what the Corriere describes as a goodbye with tears. He explained to the team about the deal, breaking down as he did so, before receiving a parting gift of insults and abuse from the fans outside. And it'll be interesting to see if they try any of that behaviour when Hong Kong Gioviani takes over. Now, if you think that Torino under new ownership may be less eager to sell their goalkeeper Luca Marcagiani to Lazio, then you may well be right. Certainly Lazio have been busy making alternative plans to find a keeper elsewhere, spurred on by that incredible demonstration of look ma no hands by Fiore in the Coppa Italia last week. Lazio president Sergio Cragnotti has reportedly already had talks with no less a figure than Walter Zenga of Inter, and with Juventus now getting cold feet about that famous Riedler-Casiraghi swap, Lazio are now talking to Sampdoria about sending Riedler there in return for their goalkeeper Pagliuca. And it doesn't stop there. Lazio are in the market for two other goalkeepers as well, Ferron of Atalanta and Cagliari's outstanding veteran Ielpo, who funnily enough Lazio got rid of back in 1987. All in all, if you're a goalkeeper and your name isn't on Lazio's list, it may be time to take a long and serious think about your future.
Bresciani has scored!
Well, the championship looks set to be reborn, like a Puritan escaping from Victorian maidens or whatever, but as we all know now, it wasn't to be. Milan's record-breaking run of Serie A away wins comes to a halt at 9. It's a series which, spookily enough, they started off back at Foggia at the end of last season. Milan's close call certainly sent the papers here into delirium. Milan has seen the devil, said the Gazzetta on Monday, the Corriere replying with the mark of Zeman, referring of course to Foggia's coach. The main cause of excitement, as the Corriere neatly illustrated with this diagram, was that for half an hour last Sunday, with Milan losing and Inter 2-0 up at Udinese, Milan's lead in Serie A was down to just 6 points. Well, I went up to Milan at the start of this week to get their reactions to that Foggia game and also find out how they think things are going midway through the season. You can hear their answers later on in the show. Before that, though, we'll have our competition and Paul Gascoigne explaining why he accepted sweets from a strange referee last Sunday and Serie A goals from last weekend. All of that in a couple of minutes, so see you then.
Cash prize of £250 to be won in our competition shortly. But first, Gary Bloom with a roundup of last Sunday's Serie A action.
And Ancona in red needed a victory at home to Torino in order to increase their hopes of survival in Serie A, and went close early on through Vecchiola. Ancona missed two opportunities from the corner. Agostini and then Dattari struck the upright from close range. Torino replied with Poggi's juggling act after Ancona had failed to clear the danger. Gadda's corner then produced Vecchiola's spectacular effort. Ancona failed to make their domination count in the first half, which ended with Peccoraro's powder puff shot. Only the instincts of Gadda denied Torino a goal in the second half. While at the other end, Lorenzini tested the goalkeeper's reflexes. It took an excellent strike to decide a poor match. Poggi, the goal scorer. The young striker replaced Carlos Aguilera, who was dropped for this match, and scored his first goal in Serie A. Enzo Schifo almost snapped the crossbar in the last incident of the game. 1-0 then to Torino. It's their first win since November. Napoli faced a tough trip to Brescia, who were in the blue shirts. Galli denying Hagi an early goal. Then Sabao and Radu Choi combined. Perhaps a penalty would have been awarded had the Romanians stayed down. Fine approach work from the home side wasn't matched by Brugnetti's finishing. Ferrara cleared for Napoli, before Carboni's drive brought out this outstanding save from Landucci. Just before half-time, Fonseca somehow conspired to miss from 6 yards, and Jonas Tern saw his effort comfortably saved by the goalkeeper. Into the second half now, and Hagi instigated the move which allowed Skenardi to score the opening goal of the match. Ferrara did well to halt the Romanians' run, but his colleague failed to pick up Skenardi, who finished comfortably. Napoli's reply was immediate, but Landucci denied Francini a clean strike on goal. Brescia scored goal number 2 midway through the second half. Radu Choi's strike brings his goal tally for the season to 6. Napoli managed to pull a goal back with 15 minutes left of the match. Gianfranco Zola scoring with renowned accuracy. Hagi continued to torment Napoli's defence, but the score remained at 2-1. And Napoli dropped back into the relegation zone. Fiorentina in white had yet to score a goal in 1993, but came close after 8 minutes against Genoa. Spagnuolo's excellent save was matched at the other end by his opposite number, Manini. Manini was there to foil Genoa again, Onorati with a shot. Fiorentina ended their goal famine in the 26 minutes, although Baiano made hard work of Battistuta's cross. The former Foggia striker had scored his club's last goal 7 weeks ago. It's his 7th of the season. Genoa were denied an instant equaliser, Manini palming aside Padovano's header. Laudrup then set up Baiano for this effort. Shortly before half-time, Baiano's speed held the key to Fiorentina's second goal, scored by Battistuta. Watch how Baiano outpaces 3 Genoa defenders before releasing the Argentinian international, who scores his first goal for 10 games. If the first half belonged to Fiorentina, then the second proved the opposite. Onorati should have scored there before the Czech international Tomáš Scoravi pulled a goal back from close range. Fiorentina's defenders made it easy for Scoravi. They all seemed to be ball watching as Panucci's header fell into his path. Free kick to Genoa, enter Claudio Branco. Genoa almost found the equalising goal minutes later, but Fiorin was kept out by the splendid Manini. The home side eventually levelled the scores after 78 minutes, when Pioli's challenge on Scoravi resulted in a penalty. Judge for yourselves whether Pioli's efforts to get the ball warranted the referee's decision. Scoravi converted the spot kick to make it 2-2. Manini was unfortunate to see the ball squirm underneath him. The draw keeps both clubs in the same positions in Serie A. Inter, in their blue and black stripes, selected Darko Panchev for the visit to Udinese. And the Macedonian justified his inclusion in the side, scoring after 8 minutes. Panchev was starting his first game in 1993 after his miserable start to life in Italy. Igor Shalimov then tried his luck from long range, before Balbo's free kick just cleared the Inter crossbar. Midway through the first half, Inter lost their influential midfield player. Bianchi stretched it off with a damaged thigh. But here's Balbo muscling his way into the area at speed. Rubin Sousa's speed got the better of the Udinese defence here. Berti's header didn't get the better of Di Sarno, the Udinese goalkeeper. The left wing seemed Inter's preferred path to goal. Berti's path to goal was blocked by Calori and Delano. It's a penalty. Berti's made a living out of trying to win penalties. This time he's successful. And so was Rubin Sousa. 5 goals for him now in 5 games. Inter hit the fast forward button looking to secure the win. Shalimov might have done it here. Three Inter players couldn't get the better of 3 Udinese defenders. But trust an old boy to upset Inter's progress. Desideri is as surprised as anyone to witness Abate's fumble. This won't have done Abate's chances of displacing Zenga and Inter's goal much good at all. If Inter were generous at one end of the field, it was a similar story at the other. With victory in touching distance, Inter conceded a second goal. Branca is the player with his back to goal here. Abel Balbo, the player, celebrating the goal. The ball takes a fortunate deflection off Battistini, but there was nothing lucky about the final shot. It ended level. Inter miss out on a chance to keep Milan's lead at the top.
Well, now it's competition time here on Gazzetta Football Italia. As we've no live programme tomorrow, we're going to set you the task that we normally bring you at half-time during Football Italia. And you can win a fantastic cash prize of £250. Just look at these 6 golden goals chosen by Paul Gascoigne from last weekend's matches. Simply match your top choice with his and you can take home the cash. Goal 1, scored by Lazio's Karl-Heinz Riedler in the 2-1 win over Sampdoria. Goal 2, Frank Rijkaard's for Milan at Foggia. Goal 3, Roberto Mancini's late effort for Sampdoria. Goal 4, scored by Gabriel Batistuta for Fiorentina at Genoa. Goal 5, Florin Raducioiu's winner for Brescia against Napoli. And finally, goal number 6, Paolo Poggi's winner for Torino away at Ancona. Now, when you've made your choice, ring us on 0891 555 444. The first caller picked out by our computer when the lines close next Friday, whose choice of just the best goal matches Paul Gascoigne's, wins a cash prize of £250. In Gazzetta last week, we asked you to tell us the score when Sampdoria and Lazio clashed in our very first live game back in September. It was, of course, answer A, 3-3. This lucky winner picked out by our computer goes into a winner's draw for a dream trip to the Italian Cup final and takes home an Italian-style tracksuit and accessories. And these 5 runners-up win a junior football kit and ball and copies of our own Football Italia magazine. Don't forget, full details of all our competitions also appear on page 365 of Fortel. Well, good luck with that, but now let's hear what kind of a week it's been for Paul Gascoigne.
Hiya, well, I don't know if you watched the game live last week, fantastic win. Got taken off 15 minutes setting off, but that's football. I don't know if you've seen the incident. I didn't make the headlines, but I did make part of the newspapers this week where I went to complain about the decision, and the referee gives a chewing gum and said chew on that instead of moaning instead. I thought it was quite funny. Things like that just shows that the referees can be alright in Italy. They're not all bad. He got one over us there. I was pleased to see that. I was delighted to be back playing again against Sampdoria. What surprised me, I was taken off into the second half again, but you know, the manager's decision, and he said I was tired. I was enjoying the game. I didn't feel that way at all, but like you say, I am not the manager, he's the manager, and I just have to keep on working all through the week and just hopefully I play tomorrow, you know. Later on today I'm going to be going up to Florence for the match we have tomorrow against Fiorentina. Florence is a very, very nice part of Italy, and hopefully I can spend an hour outside the hotel just having a look around of some of the places, some of the sites, and it's supposed to be really, really beautiful. Florence were really doing well in the championship until they sacked the manager, and since then they haven't won a game and only scored 2 goals in 4 or 5 games. So let's hope really that the way we're playing we can capitalise on that tomorrow and get another result and keep us in the top of the table. We're third, you know, and we're hoping to try and get the second spot, and that's what we're aiming at the moment. Well, 93 as it went, you know, I picked up another injury. I haven't played as many games as I would like to have done in 93. I've missed a couple through injury, but what is good news is that David Platt has returned from injury, and hopefully that will both be back on the England scene next week when we meet up, and we're both really looking forward to it. Chance to see all the lads and that, and hopefully get a great victory against San Marino. Boom boom.
The Milan half-term report coming up, but first, Gary Bloom with the rest of the Serie A action.
Roberto. When push came to shove, Casiraghi was a player who made way. Juventus in the lead, courtesy of Roberto Baggio. Francescoli was attempting. Where Torricelli was hoping to put his header, goodness only knows. Well, Vialli was doing his best to restore Juventus's lead with this splendid volley. Juventus will have felt aggrieved at this penalty decision which went against them. 3 Juve players protest their innocence. Moriero doesn't appear to be fouled, but that doesn't stop him hitting the turf. Francescoli hits the penalty too close to Peruzzi. Last week Peruzzi saved Beppe Signori's penalty against Lazio. This imaginative move deserved a goal. Vialli desperately close to scoring. So was Dino Baggio's header produced the outstanding save of the game. But it was Casiraghi's first goal in 12 months. Juventus win then, it's only their second victory in 7 Serie A games. Lazio in light blue against Sampdoria was a meeting of Paul Gascoigne and Des Walker, the Englishman abroad. Gascoigne inevitably making an early impact. Gascoigne's vision created the game's opening goal. Beppe Signori's cross is met by Karl-Heinz Riedler. It's Riedler's first goal for Lazio since April 1992. Both Walker and Manini left for dead by Riedler's pace. Most of Lazio's problems have come in defence this season, and here's a good example of their inability to shut out the opposition. If Lazio miss out on a UEFA Cup place this season, this will be the reason why. Signori's pace has brought him a significant proportion of goals this season. It nearly brought him a penalty here. The Echewood's challenge is legal, if brutal. The Gascoigne hop and skip are becoming renowned in Italy. Fusaro couldn't make capital of the pass. Signori proved his right foot isn't as lethal as his left. This was the best Sampdoria could muster from Invernizzi. They were closer in the second half, though, from Jugovic. Signori brushes aside Walker here to deliver the cross. And then releases Riedler. Pagliuca's foul on him releases the referee's red card. Whether Pagliuca needed to upend Riedler remains uncertain. His sending off, though, was fully justified. Both substitutes were on, so Manini had to go in goal. Not that Manini stood a chance when Stropper, on for Paul Gascoigne, bent this shot around him 3 minutes from full time. It was Stropper's first goal of the season. Sampdoria's response was a smart free kick, chipped in by Mancini. Mancini with a perfect 9-iron shot, pin high. Lazio are now third after their first league win in 3 weeks. Next, Parma in white against Atalanta, one of the surprise teams in Serie A. Parma have only been beaten once at home this term. Aspria's pace almost set up Ferrante here. The Swedish international Thomas Brolin then had his shot smuggled off the line. The Parma goalkeeper Ballotta was quick off his line to deny Atalanta. And as Parma pressed forward, Aspria almost took De Agostini's head off his shoulders. On the slow motion replay, you can see it was a good save by Ferron in the Atalanta goal. Pin's dribble ended in this wild shot. Aspria's dipping, bobbling free kick couldn't fool Ferron, who was busy soon afterwards with this double save. Nil-nil then, the only scoreless game in Serie A this weekend. Finally, Roma's away game at Pescara on the Adriatic coast. Now, this piece of action should dispel anything you've ever heard about the sophistication of Italian football. This could have come from any Sunday league. Carnevali heads wide. Nobile's defending is all at sea again as Caniggia tests Marchioro. Allegri and Dunga were doing their bit to add some gloss to the match. And then Piacentini's arrow of a free kick almost found the bullseye. Pescara never gave up trying to play imaginative football. Allegri has the shot here. The Pescara defence was strangely static as Hessler's free kick is headed in by Carnevali 2 minutes into the second half. Look at Marchioro, the goalkeeper here, who strangely forgets to save Carnevali's header. He was a little braver with his stop to deny Aldair. Sliskovic might have angled his shot here. In fact, Sliskovic was ultimately Pescara's focus of hope. But nobody was on hand to add the finishing touch. Pescara thought they'd won a penalty for the foul on Borgonovo. Sliskovic couldn't reassure the crowd with a goal. But Pescara's patience was rewarded 4 minutes from full time. Ferretti's galloping run is ended by Thomas Hessler. On the replay you can see Hessler tugging Ferretti's shirt. Allegri tugs Pescara a point. It finished 1-1. Pescara, though, still bottom.
So Milan are where they've been all season, on top. Inter, also held to a draw, were unable to make up any ground. But Lazio and Juventus are now level with Atalanta on 21 points. Ancona and Pescara look doomed at the bottom. But who's going to go down with them? Only 4 points separate Sampdoria in 7th spot and Napoli in 16th. Not so tight in the goal-scoring chart with Beppe Signori clear at the top with 17. Abel Balbo moved one closer by scoring against Inter, and Roberto Baggio comes into joint 3rd spot with his strike against Cagliari. Tomorrow's fixtures see the returns from Week 2, when a remarkable 39 goals were scored. Sampdoria and Ancona shared 5 goals between them that day, Foggia and Napoli 6, and Pescara and Milan 9. And Milan still ruled the roost, so it was a contented camp that James Richardson visited this week.
As we all know, there are very few things in life you can really count on. Death, taxes, the phone ringing when you're in the shower, that kind of thing. Here in Italy, though, this season, a new name has been added to the list, AC Milan. Since the first week of the season, they've been on track for their 2nd consecutive championship title. And the question now seems to be, just how many points will they win it by? Milan have had their opponents, they've had their injuries, they've had their internal arguments, but so far nothing has succeeded in shifting them from their course.
Andando avanti in Coppa Italia, adesso abbiamo la partita di ritorno contro l'Inter, che è molto difficile, speriamo di superare il turno, siamo molto fiduciosi, in campionato stiamo molto bene, abbiamo 8 punti di vantaggio sulla seconda. Per quanto riguarda la Coppa dei Campioni direi altrettanto bene, perché a livello di punteggi siamo avanti rispetto a tutti quanti.
There certainly doesn't seem to be much that's not going right for Milan right now. They're unbeaten in 53 games, dominating every competition they play in, and the internal arguments of earlier months have almost all been resolved. However, the modesty of recent Serie A results, notably that hard-fought draw at Foggia, does suggest that their continued dominance may not be as assured as we had thought.
Ma loro sono andati molto forti, anche noi avevamo molto paura, timore di questa partita di Foggia, anche perché avevamo dei giocatori che non stavano bene e poi mancava Van Basten, mancava Baresi, mancava Lentini, mancava Filippo Galli, mancava tanta gente.
Foggia ha giocato bene, abbiamo avuto la fortuna che il portiere
ferma il rigore, perché altrimenti c'era finito per noi.
Purtroppo nessuno mette in evidenza certe cose, io ascolto molto tranquillamente, che noi venivamo dalla partita del mercoledì, di un derby giocato in maniera molto decisa, molto dura. Nessuno ha parlato di questo. Abbiamo giocato contro una squadra che ha dato l'anima, ha dato il cuore, però a 6 minuti alla fine noi stavamo vincendo e se non ci fosse stato l'errore del nostro portiere avremmo vinto tranquillamente.
Well, funnily enough, Milan's goalkeeping has long been seen as perhaps Milan's one real weakness. Mistakes like this one against Inter by Francesco Antonioli look decidedly unseemly in a squad as expensive and talented as AC Milan. So Capello's choice of most pleasant surprise of the season so far comes as something of a surprise itself.
Direi che la sorpresa più positiva secondo me è stata nei nostri portieri, sia Antonioli che Rossi. L'importante è che fra di noi si sappia quali sono i problemi o se non ci sono o se ci sono. Io sono molto contento dei miei portieri.
Certainly, whatever problems they may have had in goal, Milan still boasts Serie A's number 2 defence. Their attack is one place higher, the best in Italy this season. But so far in '93, there's been a distinct fall-off in scoring for Milan. They managed just 6 goals in their last 6 games against the likes of Brescia, Genoa and Roma. They were held scoreless in last week in the Coppa Italia by Inter, and it seems that even Milan don't find it so easy without Marco van Basten.
Noi adesso creiamo molte occasioni da gol e forse ne realizziamo di meno. Lui è uno invece di quelli che ci teneva alta il numero dei gol segnati, perché ha questa grande capacità di realizzare e di inventare anche il gol.
Marco van Basten has recently won his 3rd European Footballer of the Year award, and his absence would hurt any team. However, while his right angle continues to recover, Milan still have the services of last year's winner, Frenchman Jean-Pierre Papin. Since his arrival from Olympique Marseille, he's scored 7 goals, but he's had trouble both establishing himself in Milan's turnover of players and escaping the subsequent arguments.
No, non è venuto come pensavo prima, sono venuto qui per giocare in questa squadra, ma quando sono venuto non pensavo che c'era ancora 6 stranieri. Rimano ancora un anno a Milano e se la situazione non va meglio vado via.
Well, incredible as it sounds, nobody at Milan appears to have warned either Jean-Pierre Papin or Dejan Savicevic just how deep the roster would be here at Milan when they signed their contracts. Both players claim now that they were told that Ruud Gullit would be off playing his football in France this season. And in fact, it was the Dutchman who was the biggest casualty of the early season surplus in talent. Out of the team's first 4 fixtures this season. Public arguments erupted, he accused the club of treating him like a cretin and made it clear he was leaving as soon as he possibly could. Then at Christmas he stunned everybody, announcing that he wanted to end his career with the club. Why? Well, the suggestion is that firstly, Ruud's Milanese wife may have had much to do with his change of heart. Secondly, it's probable he realised that there aren't too many clubs eager or able to pay for a player of Gullit's age the £3 or £4 million that Milan would ask. Gullit's age and the condition of his knees is almost certainly a major factor in his change of heart. A team like Milan that doesn't ask him to play every single game is almost certainly a better bet for a champion reaching the end of his career. But whatever the reasons, Milan are delighted with his decision.
Ma sicuramente io sono felice, io so che in certi momenti quando uno non gioca è arrabbiato ed è giustamente arrabbiato. Uno deve sentire questa necessità, invece adesso è stato richiamato, sta giocando, è stato richiamato anche a Foggia, ha giocato molto bene. Per cui siamo molto contenti.
So everybody happy despite the scares at Foggia. Well, having now met all their Serie A opponents, I wondered which team gave Milan the most problems.
Sì, Inter forse ha trovato una forza giusta da affrontare Milan, è anche stato sempre sotto di noi nel senso tattico, nel senso di gioco, ma sono stati abbastanza forti, direi Inter.
Ma credo la Sampdoria. Sì, la Sampdoria contro di noi abbiamo vinto, però loro hanno avuto molte occasioni, hanno sbagliato tanti gol e noi lì siamo stati fortunati.
Ma io credo che la partita più difficile, proprio per la qualità e il livello dell'altra squadra, è stata la Lazio in casa.
La Lazio?
Sì, abbiamo vinto, però è stata la squadra che ci ha creato più problemi.
3 sides with very different strengths and tactics, none of them managed to beat Milan. What kind of team then would it take to end their unbeaten run?
Sì, lo sapevo, non posso dirlo, ma no, non penso che tu devi giocare con velocità prima e poi vediamo che si passa.
per giocare contro il Milan solo Marsiglia ha vinto.
Sono quelli che hanno nelle loro caratteristiche di stare indietro e giocare in contropiede. Squadre come il Foggia che gioca tutto sulla determinazione, sulla velocità, sul rischio. Sta di fatto che queste squadre non hanno mai niente da perdere, per cui giocano sempre molto meglio del solito.
AC Milan are now looking to break the Serie A record for most points scored in a season. It currently stands at 58, set by Internazionale Milano back in 88-89. Milan are currently projected to finish with 62. They've seen off the challenges of all of their Serie A rivals, and 53 games into their unbeaten streak, the law of probability looks like their biggest adversary.
In continuazione di questo fatto facciamo i giusti scongiuri di non aver ancora perso. Fare un campionato senza perdere è importantissimo. Adesso abbiamo fatto un girone di ritorno ancora senza perdere mai. Credo che sia qualcosa di straordinario nel Milan e in Italia, per il Milan e in Italia.
And that's almost it for today. No live game tomorrow, but we're back with all the news and action next Saturday in Gazzetta Football Italia. Join us for that. But finally, a word from our Italian culinary expert.
Well, this week I have worked hard. I've been watching what I have been eating. Just never eat fruit. I have been eating all the fruit stuff, and especially the drinking. I've cut down on I've been making sure I drink the right stuff. It's really good that I keep to the certain stuff. You know, like, the boss has told us to keep off the pasta, so I've been keeping off the pasta. Just, you know, I never eat as much pasta now. I just eat about 4 plates of it. He said it was, you know, keep off the ice cream. But, you know, how can I keep off the ice cream if I really like it? But apart from that, I mean, bread rolls now. I have to tell you what's really fattening is bread rolls, and what I've sort of, I've sort of kept down off the bread rolls because I've been complaining. I have been drinking too much. They said wine's really good for you, but I mean, I try to cut down a lot on it. But sometimes, you know, when I do celebrate, I like to have a glass of water or something when I do celebrate. But things I really, really hate is gherkins. I've really gone off gherkins, you know. Melstine always said, you know, keep off them because they really do you no good whatsoever in Italian football.